Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Yeonni, and as promised, this is my video on the appic psychology internship matching process. I just went through it, like literally this past season, which I have a lot to say about it. So it was kind of a process trying to put everything together in my notes to make it coherent and also share with y'all what I've been through this past season. I'm making this video in the hopes that with part one of the video, I'm going to break down like the facts of what it is, what to expect, and I will be linking some resources down below in my description. And then part two of the video will be my experience, what I went through, and sort of the advice that I picked up of things that I feel like I did well, things that I learned throughout the process to help whoever is in this process, will be in this process in the future, to get through this with your head intact, because sometimes I felt like a chicken running around with my head cut off, and you just gotta keep running. So yes, if you're interested in part one of like what is the appic psychology internship process, I'll start talking about that now. If you already sort of know what it is about, then just skip to this part in the video, time jump, and we'll get into what I went through, my experience, and my advice. So, when you are in a psychology PhD program, whether you are in a school psychology program, a clinical psychology program, or a counseling psychology program, you have to go through an internship process to be able to get your degree. So right now, as a fourth year psychology PhD student, I just went through this whole process of trying to match for internships. So you might have heard the word match before, and that is most likely because in the medical school world over there, they also go through a matching process to match with residency. Now, our process in the PhD psychology world is a little bit different, where in order for us to become doctors and get that like doctor so-and-so after their name, Dr. Yeonni for me, we have to go through certain milestones, right? Whether that's passing comprehensive exams, taking all of your core classes, doing clinical externships throughout your program. Matching for and going on a 1-year internship is one of the last check marks to check off before you can graduate and become a doctor, along with the dissertation, which that's not what this video is about. So that is what the appic psychology internship match is all about. Now, here are some acronyms that really confused me, or like different things that confused me when I was sort of going through this process in the beginning. So I just looked this up. What does appic even mean? So according to Google and the appic website, appic is the Association of Psychology, Postdoctoral, and Internship Centers. Basically, it's an organization that operates in the US and in Canada to help facilitate this matching process for psychology doctoral students looking for internships so that they can graduate. Hi, voiceover Yeonni here, just quickly jumping in to make the clarification that appic sets the policy, standards, and oversees the entire process of the matching system, and the National Matching Service, which is NMS, is the vendor that actually facilitates the match. I think that's also important because you're also going to hear a lot about the NMS, the NMS. They're like the vendor that operates the technological platform where you like register, rank sites, see results, all that stuff. So there's appic and there's NMS, the company, the organization that facilitates and helps with this matching process of candidates that need internships and sites that need interns. Now, the appic site is really important to understand, and you will get all of your information from the appic website. They're pretty good at making sure they're quite transparent in their process. They even release like statistics and graphs of the match every year, which I'll show you some of that later on in the video. They are, I would say, pretty good with doing this. They've been running this match process for many, many years. I don't remember how many. Pop it up here. This many years. So this is the place to go to match for internship if you are at that point of your psychology doctoral journey. Now, what is the appy? So we had appic, and then there is the appy. It is the website that appic runs, and it is a website where you apply for all these internships. So everything is centralized into this one website. You're not sending applications out to different emails and training directors. Basically, it is one website where you put all of your information, like your transcripts are uploaded there, your letters of recommendation are uploaded there, and you find different sites that are part of the match that year. Oh, and of course, pay for the application materials because it is not free to apply for internship. I think that is very important to mention transparently from the get-go. You have to sign up for the match, that costs money, and then this much I'll put right here since I can't remember off the top of my head right now, and every site that you apply to costs money to apply. So that's something to consider when applicants think about how many sites to apply for when they apply for internship. You might also start seeing the word directory everywhere. Now the directory is exactly what it sounds like. The directory is what appic has. It is a directory of internship sites that are participating in the match. So in this directory, as with all directories go, you can sort of filter out different kinds of sites, different states in the US, and that's where sites upload all of their information about who they're looking for when it comes to minimal requirements, what their internship experience is going to look like, stipend, benefits, and there's always a link to like the direct source of all this information on each respective site's website. So very, very informative. The directory is something that I sleuthed around for I feel like a year before I even applied, because if you look at the prior year's directory, it gives you an idea of what kind of sites are available and up to accept interns every year. Another thing to mention when I think about the directory, appic, appy, and all of this, it is very important for you to understand in your program if APA accredited sites are important for you. For example, my program only allows us to apply to APA accredited sites. You might have heard of APA accreditation before, because if you're in a PhD program, you've probably come across this phrase when you're applying to programs. There are psychology programs that are APA accredited, there are ones that are not APA accredited, and that leads to a whole like whirlwind of different conversations on like what is this organization that determines what site is good or not. That also follows you into the internship application process, where there are APA accredited internships and not APA accredited internships. So it's really important for you to go through that directory, see which ones are accredited, not accredited, talk to your director of clinical training, your DCT, talk to your school on like what can I apply to, because certain schools do not allow you to apply to non-accredited programs. So when we talk about matching, it is really important for us to talk about ranking. And like I said, I am not an expert on any of this, just like I probably should have put that in the beginning of the video. I am just someone who went through it. So this is all information I learned as I was going through it. If you want the direct primary source, like I said, the appic website is linked in the description box down below. All right, what was I talking about? Match, ranking. So how I understood ranking, it was and is basically, let's say you are candidate A and you get 5 interviews. Great. You go to all of these interviews, and once your interviews are done, you take part in the process of ranking. And that's what it sounds like. You rank which sites you love the best. And they always advise, after you do an interview, you get kind of like an idea of, oh, I think this site really liked me, versus like, I think this site, I don't know, I wasn't really like matching with like the training director, and like the vibe fell off. And appic really encourages us to rank based on what site we really want to go, rather than trying to like game the matching system of like being like, I think they're gonna choose me first, so I'm gonna choose them, although they're actually like my third choice, if that makes sense. So you rank which sites you want to go to. And just as you, the candidate who just interviewed for internships, rank, the sites also rank. Let's say site A interviewed 10 different candidates and they have 5 internship slots for the next training year. So out of the 10 candidates, they're gonna rank their top 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now it is a match if you, as candidate A, you are one of those 5 that the internship picked. If you are the rest that they didn't pick, unfortunately, you are not ranked. So appic really emphasizes that this is a fair and objective process, especially because who does the match, right? Is it like people who are part of appic? No, it is a well-oiled algorithm. Now that used to freak me out. I'm like, you're saying my future depends on an algorithm? But long story short, from what I've been through and from the research I've read, the algorithm does feel very well-oiled and objective, and it'll go through your top 5 rankings and the site's top rankings and make sure if site A picked you and you picked site A, you will match with site A. They really do their best to make sure the candidates get the sites that they want and the sites get the candidates that they want. Now, so let's get into like the phases. This is like the meat of the appic psychology internship match process. So there's 3 different phases of these appic psychology internship cycle every year. So God, this took me so long to figure out. Phase 1 is exactly what it sounds like. It is phase 1, round 1 of applications. And every year the timeline of all of these phases sort of skews depending on the calendar year. Most of my applications were due like November 1st, November 15 of 2025, last calendar year. So I've completed all of my applications October 31st. Just wanted to get them out. Of course, you want to make sure you thoughtfully go through your application materials, make sure you have everything. That is phase 1, where you apply to different sites, whether all over the country or you are geographically tied down because of different personal reasons. You put together your application materials, you interview, you rank, and you play the waiting game, and the algorithm does its own thing. And then once the algorithm does the match, which I assume is quite fast, it's a computer, it goes boop, 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 figures it out. Humans actually go through the result to make sure everything is seamless. And so in the example that I gave of the 10 candidates and the site that picked 5, what about those 5 candidates who didn't rank? You know, what if like they weren't chosen by the site? Where do they go? Well, ideally, they also had like site B, C, D, and E, and one of those other sites picked them, right? Then they match. So like a candidate here might not have matched at site A, but site C really loved candidate A and put them as one of their rankings. Then this person matches with that site, and it might not be their first choice, but it was in their top 5, and they match in phase 1. Great, you're done. Like a meticulous review process that they do. That's why it takes a bit of time for the rankings to be revealed. How are the rankings revealed for phase 1 match? So on match day, in the morning between 8 or 9 a.m., you will receive an email from appic being like, congratulations, you matched. This is the site. And often they encourage training directors of the site that you matched in to call you and be like, congratulations, we're so happy to have you. Awesome. That is phase 1 match day. You've matched to an internship, and now you just let your training director know, and then you start onboarding, because internship starts often right away in the summer. So when you find out in like February, you are already starting onboarding to start internship in July, in August, sometimes in September as well. But it's a very quick process. Now, what if you didn't match? What if you did your best, you really vibed, you really thought you were going to match with certain sites, and you just weren't the top 2, top 5, top 6, something happened, and you didn't match? Well, now there's phase 2. All right, phase 2, let's get into it. February 20th, morning of, you get an email saying, unfortunately, we regret to inform you that you did not match. No one ranked you. I think that was how the email was, yeah. If you did not match in phase 1, you immediately are signed up for phase 2. You don't have to like sign up for anything. You go through the same process again that you went through in phase 1, but now the timeline is much shorter. It is a month. So I believe phase 1 match day was at the end of February. The day after, you start applying again. The sites that did not fill all of their internship slots are publicized. If a site had 5 internship positions and they only filled 3, then this site enters phase 2 to fill those last 2 intern slots. Obviously, there is way less sites available, but there are still candidates that have not matched. There are still sites, so it is the same process. So you have a month to apply for everything, rewrite all your cover letters, to contact your DCT, and figure out what happened in phase 1, how do you recalibrate, what strategies do you need to make to be able to match this time, and then you interview, and then you rank, all in about a month, and at the end of March, you have another match day. So same thing as phase 1, you matched. Great, call your DCT, you have your internship set, awesome. You start onboarding, you're good to go. Let's say you didn't match. Let's say it didn't happen again. What happens now? Is it over? No. There is still one more chance, which is called the post-match vacancy service. PMVS, let's get into it. So, as you can hear from the name, post-match vacancy service happens post-match. What that means is the matching process is over, which is kind of scary to think about, right? Phase 1, phase 2, match, right? The whole algorithm, ranking, all that stuff is the same for 1 and 2. Post-match runs very, very differently. Post-match starts the morning after phase 2 match day ends. So very next morning at 9 a.m., whatever sites that didn't fill their spots, or sometimes sites that happen to get new accreditation or funding pop up in post-match. And also something that's different about PMVS is that it no longer participates in the match. There's no more ranking system anymore. It's more like job interviews. And the strategy in post-match vacancy service is speed. You have to apply very quickly because now, since there's no more matching or ranking and all that stuff, it really is a speed game of you need to apply through the AP website. You use the website all throughout these 3 phases. Apply quickly. You see that job site you want, you put together your cover letter, you shoot out your application through Appy. Often at this point, candidates are tired, but also training directors and sites are tired because this is your 3rd phase of going through all of this. A lot of rejection on both ends of the candidates and the internship sites. So some training directors might not look at the Appy website. So as a candidate, something that really helps you be a strong candidate is that you email the training director with a warm email being like, hey, this is me, would love to join you, let's work together. And since there's no matching or ranking process anymore in post-match vacancy service, you interview and you essentially get the job or not. So it is a much different process and timeline. This is a hard part. There is no set timeline. There's no really like expectations or like really regulations on how, when sites should get back to you about interviews or their answers. Also, the PMVS list of sites that are available is routinely updated, but there is no like consistent date or time when it is updated. So starting from the day after phase 2 match day, so in March, it goes on until September technically. But it sort of is an ongoing process that unfortunately is still ongoing for many folks who have not matched this past year. Now let's jump into the part of the video where I talk about my experience of going through the appic psychology internship match process. And some advice, things I picked up. And this is the part of the video where I kind of let loose and really tell you what it was like for me as an applicant who went through this process, because oh my god, it was really scary. I don't sugarcoat things here on my channel. There's a lot of pressure. Oh my god. And I really felt like I did the best I could to prepare. I started preparing like the spring before. I had like a general idea of how many sites I wanted to apply to. I applied to 15. Mind you, every site you apply to costs money. So that was around like $600-700 that I had to pay out of pocket. I know so much of this phase 1, phase 2, PMVS so intimately because I went through it. Yes, I went through it. I didn't match in phase 1. I didn't match in phase 2. I matched in post-match vacancy service. I went through all the cycles and matched in PMVS. And there's so many parts of that I can't share. This would have to be like an hours-long conversation on what I went through. Just know that a lot of what I shared in the first half was things that I actively had to learn and understand because I went through it. If you know me at all, personally, or if you've just been on my channel for a while, I am very proud of my ability to be prepared, to be organized. I have journals and agendas and calendars galore. It's kind of fun for me and also helps me to manage my anxiety about like big pressure things like matching for internship, because you need to match to graduate. So I was on top of it. I had my recommendation letter, folks, like all planned out. I already reached out to them like in the early summer, reminded them. So I did everything I could. I don't know where it cut me off, but I felt passionate, I felt excited, I felt really like I put in a lot of thought and effort into these application packages. Let's see what happens. And long story short, I got some great interviews. I really felt good about them. I felt connected. I felt like, oh yeah, these sites are really where I want to go. So I interviewed, I ranked, I waited for match day. It was so nerve-wracking, and then match day morning came and I got the email that I didn't match. It's still hard talking about this, especially to a camera, to folks. There's so much pressure built up on matching in phase 1. I guess in my mind when I was preparing, just in case, I was like, Yeonni, there could be a chance you could go to phase 2 but I believe in myself. Like, you can do it. You will match in phase 1 with all of your friends and it will be great. No matter where I end up. Like, I love these sites so much that I was like, I just want to match. Like, I think I would love going to any of these hospitals. So when I didn't, I was just so confused, so devastated, especially because a lot of this application material, like, so much of this work is personal, you know, like they have you write a personal statement. There's 4 different sections of these essays. There's like an autobiographical part, there's like a theoretical orientation one, there's a research one, and there's like a diversity multicultural one. So that's those 4 essays that you submit to all the sites. And I wrote a lot about who I am and like what my journey has been with psychology and with mental health, and what fuels my passion and excitement and like determination to be a clinician and how much I love it. So when you don't match, you can't help but feel it personally. It feels like a rejection of who you are as a person, and often folks around you will tell you, don't take it personally, it's not about you, for a reason. I'll get into that in a second, but I just want to emphasize that if you've ever gone through this, if you have gone through this recently, or you're afraid of this, it's totally normal to internalize it and feel it as like a personal rejection. But there really is no time to grieve too much, because like I said, if you don't match in phase 1, you are immediately starting phase 2 that day. Cultivate a strong relationship with your director of clinical training. Try to, at least, because they are the person that will help you to get through a lot of this. My DCT was so absolutely incredible, guiding me not only like logistically, like, okay, let's see what happened in phase 1. Let me review your materials again. What can we strengthen? And like, what can we change? Like, there is like a professional investment in making sure you match. Like, that's part of the DCT's job. However, my DCT went like above and beyond and was there for me emotionally. She was just so kind and be like, let it out. You gotta cry and like, let me know how I can help you. Do you want to talk about the logistical stuff for phase 1 now? Or maybe I can call you a little later today after you processed. She was just so relational and a human being, and also helped me to not like crash and burn. She was like, it's not over yet. We still have phase 2. So when I was talking about like, folks are like, it's not about you, and I was like, there's a reason why people say that. I think this is a good part to talk about how something I learned while in the process was that I mentioned that appic is really good at statistics, right? And they like keep track of how match goes every year because they've been doing this for many years, and they ask for a lot of feedback on like, how can we improve as a service? A trend that's been happening in recent years is that there are just way more applicants for internships than there are sites. And it was really bad last year. I remember seeing the statistics from last year, and like the graph, let me pop it up here, where just the number of applicants of like psychology psych students just skyrocketed throughout the years, and also the number of sites that were available to train applicants as interns just were declining. So going into this year, I knew things would be so competitive, but like, you don't think it would be you who like falls through the cracks, right? Because inherently the process is sort of built to work against the candidate. Like, we are like fighting for limited spots. It's inevitable that some people do fall through the cracks. For myself, of course, I took it as an opportunity to reflect. What can I strengthen about my application? Okay, like if I internalize like what's wrong with me, like I had to work through that in therapy, but it was an opportunity to be like, what can I strengthen? Let me be realistic. And so in phase 2 was when I became a lot more realistic on geographic location. New York City is such a competitive site when it comes to these internships. Everyone wants to come to New York. I get it. Like, I love New York, and I don't mean that in like an ego way. It's a really wonderful city with great training and great sites, so it makes sense. So after phase 1 ended, I was like, okay, Yeonni, time to be realistic. We have to apply outside of New York City. And that was really scary and hard for me to kind of accept that reality, but I had to sit with myself and be like, what is important for me? Because dropping out of the match process and taking an extra year, is an option for certain folks, it was not for me. Doing a lot of skills use to regulate my emotions so I can be on task and like figure out my goals. And I was like, okay, I'm willing to leave New York City for a year if it means I can match to a great site, because I also don't want to compromise and go to like any site. I want it to be good training for me so I feel equipped when I'm like a baby psychologist. It's so important for me to feel like I feel ready, but it's a great opportunity to learn more through internships. So that was an important thing. So a lot of internal work was happening while also learning about these sort of systemic factors and variables that could have played a part in me not matching in phase one. And I think it was kind of helpful to understand, like, outside of what I can change, to be like, this is competitive. Like, it's not all just on me. I will do my best to become the best applicant I can be for phase two. And I think there was a bit of like radical acceptance of, and even if things don't work out, it's not my fault. Like, I did the best I could. I really believed and still believe that I was a strong candidate, and I did fall through the cracks. Like I said, that's not coming from ego, that's coming from being confident in the work that I put in and in my passion. Some things that I was sort of assessing while I was going through applications for phase two, was it actually like something about my doctoral training? Like, what are my strong suits and like weaknesses in my training? And I have really great like intervention hours when it comes to therapy, but I was like, I feel like I didn't feel as strong in my assessment hours. That's something I can maybe write about in my cover letter, like, hey, I'm working on this right now. Was it like my full clinical experience? Something that I thought about was, I believe that me having a social work background as a future psychologist gives me an edge. I think personally and professionally, I've benefited so much from having my social work background and training, not only in like the direct clinical experiences I've had with clients as a social worker in my past, but also like the social justice framework training that I got as a social worker has become such a like I am rooted in those principles of social justice and liberation psychology because of my social work training. So for me and my support networks and my program, we really felt like that gave me like an edge or a push. And I learned through this process, some psychologists don't like social workers. As much as the algorithm is objective, before you get to the algorithm, you need to get the interview. And interviews are picked by people. And let's just say from my clinical experiences thus far, I learned that what I thought would give me an edge could potentially be space where personal bias comes in by human beings and could work against me. I'll just leave it at that. But I have some pretty solid, I would say, evidence of me having a social work background and having an MSW after my name led to my application kind of being thrown out rather than being considered. So that's something to keep in mind if you are thinking of like switching over to psychology from social work. At the end of the day, human beings are human beings. We all have biases, and that is something that we cannot control. That is something I cannot control. Was I gonna hide the fact that I was a social worker? No. I would never want to go to a site that had those sort of biases against other mental health clinicians. That just goes fundamentally against my values. So I kept that on there. I knew it was a risk after phase one and seeing what happened, but it was important for me to fully show myself to sites. Like, this is who I am, and this is how I will show up. I am proud of being a psychologist trainee with a social work background. And this video is getting so long, I need to wrap it up. But as I've sort of said a few times, I didn't match in phase two either. I don't think I need to dwell on this too long. After all of this reflecting and all of this like tweaking my applications, showing it to my DCT, my professors, my friends, showing it to my therapist, I think it was actually really helpful that she was also part of my team and community that helped me to get through all of this. I could not have gone through all of this without my community. I didn't want to bring the attention to myself because all of my friends matched and I didn't, and I wanted to celebrate them. So I kind of took a day to like cry, be sad, and then I was fully present, being like, so excited for you, I want to celebrate you, and also like I'm going through phase two, this is crazy. And so I kept communicating with my community, and like my friends sent me care packages of like snacks and a lot of cold brew coffee because they knew I was writing like 50 cover letters at this point. But I matched. Post-match happened so quickly, and it was really scary to end up in post-match. Let me tell you, Phase 2 was the same thing where I got interviews. I felt really great. And I will not mention any names, but also I was kind of given assurance that I got the position, which sites are not supposed to do, but they did it, and then I didn't get the position, which was absolutely devastating to me. I was like, why would you give me hope, like, and then just take that away from me? So by the time post-match vacancy started the next morning, I was like, F it. You know what? I will go down fighting. I know what kind of candidate I am. I have done so much self-reflecting in these past 5 months, from phase 1 to phase 2 and now post-match. I am not going to give up. I prepared all my materials for post-match. I had like cover letter templates ready to go. I had like email templates to training directors ready to go. And so 9 a.m. of post-match morning, the sites were listed. This was like my tier of like looking through the sites. Okay, AP accredited, yes, no. I filter out all the no's. And then I looked at, okay, hospitals, great. VAs, great. I did not want to go to like a correctional facility. I just knew that was not an environment that I wanted to work in. Medical centers were important for me. College counseling centers, cool. And then within the first half hour of the list being publicized, I applied to 7 sites. I emailed 7 training directors, and then everything happened so fast on this day. We're wrapping up, I promise. 9:30 a.m. I submitted everything. I text my DCT. All right, well, I applied, and I guess we'll just wait and see what happens. 11 a.m. I get a phone call, and it is a training director of a site. And she's like, hey, you're the first person that applied to our site this morning. Thanks for being so prompt. Would you be interested in an interview? And I was like, yes. Definitely. My heart is pounding out of my ears. I don't know how that's possible, but it felt that way. I can hear my heart pounding. Also because like the adrenaline and the exhaustion at this point of going through this 3 times. And they were like, so we have a slot in like 2 hours, or you could, do an interview later on in the day. How do you feel? And I remember reading that post-match is all about first impressions, and that training directors are tired, and also that they could give you an offer on the spot if they really like you. So as much as I was really tired, I was like, I'll take the very first slot you have. I am so excited. Hi. Okay, we were on my phone because my camera died. Sorry about that. Interview call, right? 11 a.m. And then I hang up the call and I start freaking out. I'm like, this is it. Like this, I really love this site. I don't know why they ended up in post-match. I was so curious about it because the rotations, the training opportunities, the site, everything about it sounded so incredible. Like everything I was looking for, it was all there. I have the interview, but I know that I didn't feel the most confident about it. The training director was so kind and so understanding. There was even a point where I was trying to answer like a case scenario. I just like had a brain fart, and then instead of internally being like, oh shoot, that was a brain fart, I said out loud, I was like, sorry, I had a brain fart, can I start all over again? Which was really silly to do during an interview, but she like laughed and like I started over. And then once the call ended, I kind of sat there in the silence and was like, they didn't offer me on the spot. Okay, they didn't like me that much. And I started crying, and then I had realized I hadn't eaten anything yet, so I was like crying and trying to fry up some eggs. And then I get a phone call like 15 minutes later. It was the training director offering me an internship spot. The emotions that ran through my body at that time. So within an hour of interviewing, I had gotten the offer and I accepted the offer, and I'm going to internship. And then later on, after speaking to folks about where I'm going in the site, I found out actually that the reason why they ended up in post-match vacancy service was because they were changing their training directors. So I think a lot of applicants in phase 1 and phase 2 really liked the site. At least that's what they told me. I had folks who matched at other sites but had interviewed at the site where I'm going to that were like, I'm so surprised that they ended up in PMBS because I really love that site. This site was the first place I happened to apply to. I interviewed with them and they liked me, and they were like, we don't have to interview anyone else, we want you. And that is such an incredible feeling after 5 months of rejections, just back to back to back, and being like, you're great but not great enough. My therapist really held me down throughout that season. So yes, I will not keep this going on any longer. that was my experience with appic pre-doctoral internship process, and I learned a lot of things through all of that. Prepare the best you can. All the information is online. Also is through the folks that you go to the program with, people who have been through it. And I didn't go to program with you, but I'm here sharing with you to maybe be another like a pseudo person in your program who can share my experiences in hopes that it can help in any way. Really cultivate a relationship with your director of clinical training. Seriously, so important. Also have like the team around you. Something I'm really proud of that I did throughout my years in this doctoral program that I didn't even do for the purpose of this, was I have such an incredible community of not only friends and colleagues, but like faculty, professors who were looking out for me, not only through just like good vibes and like thoughts and prayers, but they showed up for me. They helped me revise my cover letters. They did mock interviews with me. They checked in on me, like not only just how are the cover letters, but emotionally, like how are you doing? And I like having that tribe of colleagues and faculty really kept me going. I just felt so grateful for the amount of love and support that I got from my community. Really, 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 really talk to folks outside of your program. I learned that every program does things very differently, even within New York City. I think that's a great thing about training here, where there's so many different psychology PhD programs. And when I thought I had enough assessment hours, that just wasn't true. And when you're doing internship applications, you're applying with everyone else in the country and Canada. It's very competitive. So I felt really, really confident about like most of my application materials, but I knew that like assessment hours was where I really lacked. And I thought I had enough because in my program standards, I had enough. But actually for like the sites that I wanted to go to for internship, it was not enough. But like at the point that you're applying, there's not much you can do. So if you have time, get those assessment hours, get those intervention hours. Like you need to get past those minimum requirements to get the interview, right? Like you got to get the interview to do well on the interview, to rank, to match, to go to internship. And also like I hope like it's going to be okay. I think when people said that to me, I was kind of annoyed, honestly. If you don't match in phase 1, you'll be okay. There will be phase 2. And yes, it's going to be scary. It's going to bring up a lot in you. It brought a lot in me about like my fear of failure and like what does success mean for me? Why do I care so much? Is it ego? Is it pride? Or do I just really care? And do I believe in myself of like how hard I worked to get to this point, and like that's okay. I think that line was also important to figure out, where I'm like, I'm not an egotistical person. I just worked really hard to get to this point, and there's nothing wrong with admitting that, and nothing wrong with feeling slighted and feeling disappointed and upset when that isn't recognized because of an inherent system that is built in this unfair way where there's just more applicants than sites. But yeah, as I alluded, I am moving. I don't know if I'll reveal where, but I am moving in like a month and a half. So lots of mixed emotions at this time. A lot of excitement and gratitude to have matched, especially considering everything I've been through, and especially considering I still have friends that are still in post-match currently, and it's just an awful place to be in. But also like leaving my beloved city, my beloved New York City, leaving my friends, leaving my partner here. Logistics of moving across the country, there's a lot, but just taking it a day at a time. Yes, if you've watched this video thus far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it helpful. Sorry for the switch up with the nice camera to this, whatever this is at this point. I just really wanted to finish the video and get the point across, because I know right now, there's folks that are preparing for internship applications for this next season, and I want this to be out there to help anyone that is going through this. You are seriously not alone, in the sense that like every year folks go through this, just the whole matching process, which is stressful in itself, but also not matching phase 1, not matching phase 2, PMVS. And just be kind to yourself in the process, because the process is not kind to you. So I think I internalized a lot of that, and that made things not easy at all. So this is a little blip on the internet that I hope is informational and also kind of soothing. Like, you'll be okay. It will be okay. If it doesn't happen in phase 1, you can do it in phase 2. If it doesn't happen in phase 2, you can do it in PMVS. If it doesn't happen in PMVS, there's also many, if not like a growing pool of repeat applicants who have built up a community and supports to help folks get through this extra year, which like totally isn't fair, honestly, to have to go through. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. Please like the video itself, or let me know in the comments down below to let me know. I read every single one of your comments. Thank you for your kindness in my last one as well. I hope you are taking care of yourselves emotionally, physically, mentally, in all of those very important ways. And I will be back next week with my actual camera. I gotta figure out what the heck is going on with that thing. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week. Bye.